Hello, hi everyone. Let's see here. Hi everyone, welcome. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to join us, and then we'll be starting our live session shortly. We've got some people joining from Facebook. Hi everyone, hope everyone's keeping well and safe. Hi Renzo, hi Kenna, nice to meet you guys. Hello Deepanshu, nice to meet you. I'm going to give us a few minutes, but let me know where you guys are tuning in from. If you guys are in Canada or overseas. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking, Akani. We got some visitors today from Peru. Hello to you, Renzo. That's great. We've got Zubair from Toronto. We're from Toronto as well too, so we are based in Toronto, and I'm working from home from Toronto today. We've got some people from India. Hi, Megan. It's a pleasure to be hosting these Facebook sessions for you guys. I know a lot of you find these very useful, just to get the latest updates on what's going on with Canadian immigration and to help answer some questions for you guys. We've got visitors from Bangladesh and Pakistan as well. We've got Ruth from Angola. Hi, everyone. All right, we've got some questions rolling in. Alrighty. Awesome. Everything's looking good, guys. Today, I'm going to be talking about a few things. The latest on the new public policy pathways, an update on express entry, border restrictions, as well as flight cancellations, the latest there from India and Pakistan. And I want to share a little bit for us about the home child care provider program. If you guys have any questions, be sure to post them as a comment. Our team's going to put those two together, and then I'll be answering those at the end of our session. We've got people visiting from Russia. Awesome. Hi, Sherry. I see you've got a question. I can definitely answer that for you. Sure, Pat, if you have a question, feel free to post them and I can answer that. I see some people asking for contact info for information. If you want to visit our website, it's visaplace.com. You can take a look there, book a consultation with us if you want to go over any case-specific details for you. Alrighty. Okay, so it looks like we've got a good number of visitors today. I'm going to start our Facebook Live session. My name is Victoria. I am a licensed Canadian immigration consultant here at Visa Place. We are one of the top immigration law firms in Canada. We've been in business for probably over 20 years now, winning Top Choice Award for Best Immigration Law Firm. And we're happy to be hosting these live sessions for you guys, just to give everyone a pulse on what's going on in the Canadian immigration landscape, as well as the latest immigration news, either helping yourself or your family members on your journey to immigrating to Canada as a permanent resident, worker, or even students. For our agenda today, we've got a few updates, the latest news on the public policy pathways. Now, this was a new program that was introduced just earlier this month on May 6th. I'm going to share what's open, what's closed, and what we can do for people in Canada specifically. I'll also share a quick update on Express Entry, where we're at with the latest round of invitation. I'm going to summarize the border closures. Not much has changed there, but I'm just going to reinforce some details for people who might be visiting or wanting to visit Canada, as well as the latest flight cancellations from India and Pakistan and what that means for people there, as well as for family members. And the last bit that I want to share with everyone is the home child care provider program or home support worker program. That's a very popular avenue and stream for people to come to Canada to work here and immigrate here. So I want to share some details there for you guys. At the end of our session, we are going to answer some of your questions. So make sure you post them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get back to you for that, okay? As well, there's also going to be a discount code. So if you want to book a consultation with either myself or one of our team members on the consultation team, we'd be happy to take a look at everything and help answer your questions, okay? So let's get started. Give me a minute here. Okay, so the new pathways for permanent residents, that was introduced on May 6th, earlier this month, and that saw the applications for 90,000 essential workers and international graduates open up and launched a few weeks ago. So these special programs allowed eligible students as well as healthcare and essential workers in Canada to apply for permanent residence in a quicker, easier process as a result of the COVID-19 situation here. Our team here at Visa Place, we worked tirelessly for the weeks leading up to the launch to submit and finalize PR applications for our clients. So a big congratulations to those who were able to successfully secure a spot. There are other opportunities still, so I'm going to be sharing some information on that for you guys shortly, okay? These pathways for permanent residents, as anticipated, were very, very popular due to the expedited processing as well as the requirements. So generally what we saw was that there were less restrictive eligibility requirements and options as compared to other state programs such as Express Entry that are available to us right now. The programs that are closed is the international graduate stream, but there are a few still open for essential workers and healthcare workers, okay? So the recent graduate stream, that one was extremely popular. So this one allowed for students in Canada to apply for permanent residence without first completing their 1 year of Canadian work experience. Typically, students are supposed to work in Canada in a skilled role for at least 1 year before they are eligible to apply. So what's special about this program is that students didn't have to wait for that. They could start applying for permanent residence almost immediately on the basis of completing and graduating from an eligible institution within the last 3 years, as well as currently having a job. We know that international students and graduates quite recently have been directly impacted due to the economic situation, the availability of jobs, as well as, the availability of jobs as well as the global pandemic. So this was kind of a good option for people to apply for permanent residence right away without stressing and having the anxiety over looking for a job. Now, not surprisingly, the cap of 40,000 was filled in less than 36 hours. So the program was launched on May 6th at noon. Just the next day, that was filled up real quick. Many applicants who were hoping to submit their application weren't able to do so, unfortunately, because they didn't finish their English language test, or they weren't able to submit the payment receipt. I know a lot of people had a lot of issues, technical glitches with that, or if they didn't have a job currently. For example, if you couldn't find a job recently, you wouldn't meet the eligibility requirements to apply. Now, with all that said, there is still some indication from Immigration Canada that they will accept more applications under the stream for international graduates as they begin to review applications and remove maybe duplicate applications that might be in place or refuse those who didn't meet the eligibility criteria. So as those are removed, as those are refused, additional spots may open up for new applicants. A tip that I have for those who are still hoping to apply under this program and stream, don't give up quite yet. Continue to move forward with your English language test, as well as getting together the documentation for your application for the program. It's still worthwhile to be prepared just in case that the program does reopen, as well as it goes towards your PR application under express entry if necessary. So we want to hit two birds with one stone and apply anyways and get ready for that process. I want to talk about the essential occupations, okay? So I think quite surprisingly, the streams for healthcare workers, as well as essential occupations and several trades and manufacturing jobs, were not as quite popular as the international graduate stream. So these are still open and there's still enough space to apply. So as of today's date, which is May 26th, there's 1,500 spots filled of the 20,000 quota for healthcare workers. So that's really only less than 1% of the quota filled. And then we have 10,000 applicants of the available 30,000 workers in essential non-healthcare occupations. So that's the skilled trades, some occupations in food and beverage manufacturing, for example. So that's about 1/3 of the quota filled. So we've got 2/3 of the quota left, guys. These streams have been a little bit less popular, as I mentioned, because international graduates, they do make up such a large population in Canada than the foreign workers. And, you know, it kind of makes sense. Healthcare workers, essential workers are probably still really busy, may not have been able to sit their English language test, maybe not able to get together the documentation. But the good news is that there's still time to apply for these streams. At Visa Place, we've been working to help support frontline workers and their family members in their PR applications and making the process for you guys as smooth as possible. This is truly a golden opportunity for foreign workers looking to settle in Canada for the long term into the near future. So we'd really love to work with you and help support your efforts. If you are qualified, if you're working in a qualified occupation, our team would be happy to review your eligibility, provide more details there on the process, as well as what's needed to apply. The public policy is in place from now until November 5th later this year, or until the quota is filled, whichever comes first. So this might be a little bit sooner than later for essential occupations. We might see that fill up over the next couple of months, but it looks like for healthcare workers, we're just going to have to keep an eye closely on that and see where we are at. I've got some tips to prepare for those of you who are interested in applying under the new public policy pathways. The immigration plans for IRCC, they're still going to remain quite flexible. Okay, so nothing is exactly set in stone just quite yet. Program requirements and policies may shift to meet the immigration needs as well as the demand. For example, if IRCC is short of achieving the quota for this year, it may still be possible that the government will shift some of the allocated quota over to different streams and programs. So the pandemic is going to still be a big player in continuing to affect and influence the immigration plan for Canada. So we're going to have to monitor these changes closely and be prepared to seize any opportunity for those interested in applying for permanent residence. Some final thoughts from me about the release of these programs. I think international graduate students, as I mentioned, should still try and ensure to meet the criteria in case more spots open up. French speakers, if you speak French, there's an unlimited cap there, so you can still apply and be eligible through to the end of the year. Healthcare workers will probably need more time, guidance, and support to help prepare their applications amidst demanding work schedules. Essential workers as well, You guys might need help in determining your work experience. There's a lot of gray area in terms of your duties and responsibilities, what you're doing, and whether that qualifies in the right NOC code. So we'd be happy to review that with you guys at the end of our session today. I can share a discount code for the immigration consultation with Visa Place, either myself or one of my team members to take a look at that with you guys, okay? All right, so as always, I wanted to share a quick update on Express Entry, what's been going on there. The last round that we saw last week was for the Canadian Experience class draw. So the lowest score was 397 to receive an invitation to apply. As we can see, the trend is going down. I think the next draw will probably be maybe this week, probably next week. And we'll just continue to keep an eye on that and see what the draws are. But it looks like we could potentially hit as low as 350, depending on who's in the pool, which is really exciting. It opens up more doors and opportunities for those of us who are in Canada, who might not have, the language skills or the education requirements to meet the general Express Entry draws. As I mentioned on previous Facebook Live sessions, CEC and PMP draws are still going to continue throughout the rest of the year, and all program draws are anticipated to start for the second half of the year, which means that for people applying for federal skilled worker outside of Canada, you guys still have an opportunity to apply. We haven't heard anything yet, so we want to get everything ready, get your documents, get your language test, get your education assessment in preparation for the all program draws. As well, federal skilled trades, I've also mentioned this previously. We haven't had a draw for federal skilled trades since last year, so that may likely be on the horizon as well. If you think you qualify for a federal skilled worker or federal skilled trades, we'd love to review your eligibility under these two programs, as you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to apply this year. Immigration Canada will likely close the draws to applicants outside of Canada at the end of the calendar year. So usually December being the last few draws, and closing that off at least until mid next year for 2023. So there's still a window of opportunity to apply for permanent residence under Express Entry. We've got some good questions coming in. Please keep posting them and I'll be sure to answer them. All right, so that's it for Express Entry and the public policy. I wanted to summarize what's going on with our border closures. So for Canada, border still remains closed, other than to the current exceptions for family members as well as essential workers, as we go through a third wave of COVID-19 cases here in Canada. The mandatory 14-day quarantine for travelers is still in place, as well as the negative COVID test requirements, one that you have to do within 72 hours of arriving. Hotel quarantine, that's still a thing. If you're arriving at one of our major airports, you have to stay there for 3 days, not 3 years, before completing the rest of your quarantine period in your own separate accommodation. It may be possible that IRCC and CBSA will lift border restrictions sometime later this year. However, we can't really be certain. We do have to see how the COVID cases go. But if it's not going to be open up this year, then we may be looking into early next year with the rollout of vaccinations. For those of you who are looking to visit family members in Canada, there is a COVID exemption that we can apply for to help facilitate your entry. So if you've been kind of holding off to see how things go with the border closures, the quarantine requirements, even the negative test requirements, it might have been a few months or even a year or more that you haven't seen family members. So if you are looking to do that, we can definitely help you out, get you the approval from the health authorities, as well as assist with a port of entry package for your entry. So something to consider as we ride out the second half of the year this year. All right. I want to talk about the flight suspensions from India and Pakistan. Um, Not surprisingly, Canada does have one of the strictest travel and border measures in the world. And with the public health authorities of Canada closely monitoring case data, everything that's going on, and with the situation in India and Pakistan, the government of Canada has suspended all commercial and private passenger flights from India and Pakistan. And this is likely expected to continue until June 21st. For Canadian permanent residents who are outside of Canada in India and Pakistan, we've been receiving a lot of inquiries about maintaining residency status for those who have been outside of the country for an extended period of time, as well as bringing family members, such as parents, to Canada. So all the direct flights, as I mentioned, they're canceled, but I think a lot of people are also having difficulty going the roundabout, doing a layover through other countries just due to visa issues or availability of flights. So again, we're looking at ways of reuniting family members, either Canadian citizens and permanent residents in Canada currently, or family members of Canadian citizens and permanent residents in Canada. In addition to that, visitor applications to Canada for spouses and family members are on hold, likely due to the biometric facilities being closed or working at a limited capacity. For permanent residents in India and Pakistan, it's still possible to meet residency obligations through what we call humanitarian and compassionate considerations. Undoubtedly, exceptional situations such as the global pandemic may still qualify as a contributing factor. So if you're concerned about meeting your residency obligation of 730 days out of every 5-year window, our team is very well experienced in applying for a PR travel document under HNC considerations for this very purpose. So you may want to book an appointment for us if you think that might be a concern. For Canadian citizens and permanent residents who are looking to bring over family members to come to Canada, so we've got a lot of parents, grandparents, we've got spouses, really, who are currently in India, and we're looking out for the well-being of our family members. We want to bring them here and bring them close and have them safe with us here. There are different avenues that we can leverage to bring your loved ones. We're looking at spousal sponsorship, the outside of Canada route, or inland with a visitor visa application. We've got work permit and study permit options, as well as other economic immigration programs. So if you think this may be something of interest of you, we can take a look at that as a different means, alternative way for you to bring your family member to Canada amidst everything that's going on right now in these areas. So these have to be looked at a case-by-case basis. So we want to review those options with you and get to know your personal situation a little bit better for us to advise. All right, so one program that I want to shed light on for everyone is the Home Child Care and Support Worker program. This is a pilot program that was introduced, I think, June 2019. And this is a really, I think, special program that we have in place. It's a focus on caregivers from outside of Canada, which play an important part in supporting the needs of Canadian families for children as well as for the elderly. We've seen many programs targeted to support this population in the past in allowing you to get a work permit or permanent residence, such as the Legacy Live-In Caregiver program that we had previously. As I mentioned, the pilot programs opened up in June 2019, and these will run until 2024. So it's a 5-year pilot that we've got. These pilot programs are designed to give a more direct pathway for permanent residents, for caregivers, as well as provide a work authorization in the interim. So that's something that we could get as early as about 12 months to get your either your caregiver, support worker, a foreign candidate, or even family members. I think this is a great option for people who want to bring a sibling, a sister, an aunt, even like anyone who wants to be to take care of their own family members. If you've got young children in your family, if you're an essential worker and you're really busy, I really think this is a great avenue for people to be able to bring their family members, give them work, employ them in the capacity of a child care or support worker, and get them permanent residence in the meantime. The present pilot for childcare providers is now closed for 2021 intake, but it is expected to reopen on January 1st next year. So families and candidates who are looking to apply under the program, you guys will need a job offer. So at least 30 hours per week paid to take care of children or the elderly. You need to have a 1-year post-secondary education. The great thing about this requirement is that it could be anything. It could be 1-year college. It could be a 1-year certificate in the trades. The requirement is just 1-year post-secondary education. So if you have any questions about that, we can take a look at it for you. You need to have English or French language skills at a skill level of 5, okay, which is a little bit basic to intermediate there. Completely attainable for people, and I think it's quite reasonable. And you need to be able to accumulate or have qualifying work experience for a duration of 24 months. So what does this mean? If you don't have the work experience already in Canada working for a Canadian employer, you can accumulate that 24-month period going forward after you get your work permit. Once your application is approved, you come to Canada, your family member comes here, they work to take care of your children or our elderly folks for 24 months before they are eligible to apply for permanent residence. As I mentioned, great avenue to review for family members abroad who might not otherwise meet economic immigration programs for federal skilled worker, PMP, or if studying is not going to work out or if it's too expensive. This is just a really great opportunity for us in Canada for to help family members and to meet labor market needs in this area. Okay, so I think that's it for today in terms of the updates. I am going to open up the floor right now for our question and answer period for everyone. I see a lot of people have posted some great questions, so I'm going to go over that right now and help answer those for you guys. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this up and see. All right. So we've got our first question. Can I reopen my application? My application for express entry got picked in November 2020. I've submitted all the documents, and on February 7th, my application got rejected, stating FBI verification was not complete. Can I reopen my application as I have the latest FBI verification letter now? All right, so I think what happened here was that your PR express entry application was rejected as incomplete. A police clearance certificate is one of those requirements. But to answer your question, you can reopen your case. Our firm, we've got experience doing a request for reconsideration for many cases similar to this. So absolutely, it's very possible. We just have to make a very strong case to the immigration officer, know where to escalate your application in order to have it reopened. So what does that look like? If your case is accepted to be reopened, right now you might see your application as rejected as complete or refused or whatever. We are able to reopen that. That goes into the system, and then your application is then opened up and goes back into queue. So very possible. I've done it before for some of our clients. So I do think you might need the help of an immigration professional to do this, to help you, guide you in the right direction for that, and help, be your advocate in this situation. You were invited in November 2020. I don't know if that was for the general draw or for Canadian experience class, but you had that opportunity. We really don't want to miss out on your PR application there. How are online classes from India going to affect my work permit and PR application? That's a really great question. If you are currently enrolled for online classes as a foreign student at a Canadian institution, until I think later this year, what can happen is that still counts towards your postgraduate work permit eligibility, provided that you are granted still a study permit. So we haven't heard any news yet in terms of extending that through to next year. But for the time being, if you happen to be doing remote courses online, provided that normally these classes are supposed to be in-person courses, then you are still eligible to apply for a postgraduate work permit. And it shouldn't have any impact on your PR application. I think the Canadian government has made that quite clear, that it wouldn't affect any eligibility there. The next question is CPC Nova Scotia starting to do outland sponsorships? I've applied in December 2019 and no progress after AOR 1. Is that normal? So yes, outland sponsorship applications are still being processed. We may want to take a look at that a little bit further. December 2019, that was quite some time ago. So what we can do for you is that we can order your GCMS notes. We can also help escalate your file, see what the current status is there, and see what exactly is the holdup. I think by now, we should have seen some movement on that. I do find that outland sponsorship applications are taking a little bit, actually quicker to process than inland. So there might be something holding us up there. If you want to book a consultation with us, I can review that with you and help move along your application. Okay, the next question is, does Visa Place handle any refugee cases? The answer to that is yes, we do. We do handle some refugee cases. If you want to book a consultation with us, we can review your eligibility there, usually private sponsorship refugees, group of 5, okay? So definitely. Can I reopen a rejected express entry application? I just answered that question about a reconsideration request. Very possible to reopen, especially depending on the refusal reason, right? If we find that it was unfair, we've got some officers who may make decisions without looking at the big picture, might not reviewing all of your documentation that you provided. We can take a look at that further and see if we've got a good chance for reopening your case. We've applied for the express entry, but when do you think they will begin choosing federal entry people? If we're following what was happening last year, I think the all program draws are going to start up in summer of this year. So around July and onwards for the rest of the second half of the year. So if you're in the pool right now, that's great. We just got to sit tight a little bit and then wait for an invitation. Okay. I have 3 years of experience with United Nations and studied business administration. How can I apply for permanent residence? Looks like you got great experience. Yeah, United Nations experience, that's awesome. Business administration, it really depends on other factors for you. Age, education, maybe other family members in Canada, work experience, all of that culminates in an a score for you under express entry. So it's very likely that you are eligible to apply for permanent residency in Canada. We just have to take a look at that a little bit closer in order to, I guess, best assess your situation. Is it possible to get PR with a low score? Absolutely. If you have a low CRS points, it's still very possible to get permanent residence. We have to remember that immigration is based on labor market needs. So depending on your job occupation, if it's an occupation that's high in demand, it is very possible for you to get a provincial nomination or get an expression of interest sent to you for your application to directly apply to a province that may be looking for somebody with your qualifications, education, and work experience. I got an ITA recently under the CEC category. However, I work from Quebec. What are ways to prove my intention to leave Quebec? I don't have any friends outside of Montreal. This is a great question. For those of you who may not be familiar with one of the requirements for express entry, which is a federal program, you do have to show that you need to intend to reside outside of the province of Quebec. Quebec, which is our French-speaking province, they follow their own immigration rules and guidelines. So if you want to work in Quebec, you have to follow the Quebec immigration policies there. But for CEC, there are ways for you to show that intention to reside. We can work with you to formulate a very clear intention to reside plan, which includes where you might live, job opportunities, job prospects, all of those things to make up a very solid outline for you to support your application. We want to be very careful though, because this is a key criteria. So if you don't provide sufficient information, the officer may be not convinced that you want to reside outside of Quebec after getting permanent residence. So really important to get this right. Okay, so how difficult is it to move from Canada to the US right now as a dual citizen? Canada and the US. How difficult is it to move from Canada to the US right now as a dual citizen? If you've got dual citizenship as Canadian passport holder and US passport holder, you should be able to relocate from Canada. Oh, this is a Canada to US question. How difficult is it to move from Canada to US? I think as a US passport holder or Canadian passport holder, you're always welcome to return back home to your country of citizenship. So I don't think there's any issues for that. You just may want to look into the quarantine requirements and the restrictions there for you to relocate. But as a citizen of both countries, there shouldn't be too many restrictions. All right, so if I am immigrating with a temporary work permit and my work requires periodic international travel a lot, will I have any issues on re-entry to Canada? Will I have any issues eventually applying for permanent residency? Excellent question. So if you have periodic travel, that's what we call intermittent travel for foreign workers. That's something that should be listed in terms of your work permit petition that you're applying for. Okay, so that should be noted in the notes. But in terms of issues on re-entry to Canada, provided that your work is still open for business, you still have a job, there should not be any issues for you to re-enter Canada every single time. Also, depending on your job occupation, you may qualify for a quarantine exemption. For example, it'd be lots of work for you to quarantine for 2 weeks every single time you have to leave and re-enter the country. So you may want to have an immigration counsel or for us to work with you to put together a solid port of entry application for you or port of entry package to help request a quarantine exemption, as well as make sure that you have no issues at the border coming back in. Now, the question that you have regarding permanent residency, will I have any issues eventually applying for permanent residency? Shouldn't be any issues, provided that you're doing work for your Canadian employer's clients, whatever it is that you have to do outside of Canada, whether that's training or meeting with clients, as long as you're employed still by your Canadian, by the Canadian company, still paid, still on payroll, then shouldn't have any issues qualifying that work experience for PR. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so regarding the new stream for Francophone international graduates, one of the requisites is being employed. Are there limitations about the kind of work or length that can be used in order to apply? There are no limitations about the work that you need to have, which is great. It could be any job occupation, any skill level. It could be anywhere as well too. It could be in Quebec and it would still qualify. You just need a job, and we need to ensure that you have the correct work authorization in order for this job to be qualifying. For example, you need to have a work permit or you need to have a study permit that allows you to work in this job occupation. So if you're doing unlawful work, unauthorized work, that would not count. But in terms of the type of work or how long you've been working there. As long as you have a job when you apply for that, you still qualify. So any job. Okay. I want to purchase a job offer to get PR in any state like Saskatchewan. Okay. There are a lot of, I think, consultants and organizations that may pair you up with an employer in Canada. I think I just want to preface this that at Visa Place, this is not a service that we provide. It is quite a conflict of interest. So I don't want to make any comments about this in terms of getting a job offer. You want to be very careful about doing this. If you have the rights to apply for permanent residence on your own accord or organically with an employer, I would suggest doing it that way and really avoid a situation where you're paying someone to give you a job offer just for the purposes of immigration. We'd be happy to look at your personal profile a little bit closer on one of our consultations if you'd like. But really, it's quite a big of an investment, I've heard. This is your future. You don't want to do anything wrong that will affect your immigration application. So you may want to take a look at that a little bit closer before doing that. A student visa under the Study Direct stream. I am going under divorce. Marital status is legally separated. What documents should I support for your marriage status? That's a really good question. You should provide the correct legal documents in your home country to help support your marital status for that. We can take a look at that for you. If you've already started your study permit application, we can do a takeover. We can act as your representative, make sure that all of your documents are in place and correct for your application for your study permit. But that's awesome that you've got accepted into school and starting your study route in Canada as a student. Are there any age requirements for immigration? Yes and no. Age is definitely a consideration, but depending on certain provincial nominee programs, there may be an age cutoff. So in immigration in Canada, we look at everything holistically. We look at the big picture. We look at your language skills. We look at your human capital factors, your work experience. Your education is a huge factor as well too. Before we can kind of comment in terms of how your age impacts your permanent residence eligibility. So without having those other details before me today, I wouldn't be able to kind of make a comment in terms of that. But age, as I mentioned, is a factor. And depending on the program that we're applying for, there may or may not be a limitation there. Okay, so what minimum amount is needed for investor visa as I'm from India and planning to open a chain of restaurants in Canada? That's a really good question. Depending on the province, so we've got our smaller provinces on the East Coast, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. We've got our really big, popular, high demand provinces such as Ontario and British Columbia. The investment amount can range. It can range from anywhere as little as 150,000 Canadian dollars to upwards of 500,000, $1 million. There are other business immigration opportunities and streams for you, though. We don't necessarily have to look at the investment options. We do intra-company transfer work permits for startup companies that may qualify. For example, if you own your own business in India presently and you want to open a branch in Canada. There's also the labor market impact assessment, owner-operator. That's a very popular one as well too, where a minimum funds or capital requirement is not necessarily needed. It's taken into consideration. We look at your financials. We formulate a solid business plan for you in order to make a case for your business operations and expansions in Canada. So really, there's lots of other avenues for you to open your restaurants in Canada, and we want to take a look at that because the financial requirement is a big aspect to having your application approved. And if we can kind of bypass that requirement by looking at your personal and business profile, a little bit closer and better, then we'd be happy to make those suggestions for you for your business here. Great question. How can I bring my 2 nephews from India to Canada? Both are very well qualified and both are working for almost the last 3 years. The short answer for that is book a consultation with us. We can review your nephews. I can gather some details about how old they are, what their education is, what their job occupation is, and make a suggestion for you, depending on their personal profile. They may be eligible to apply directly through Federal Skilled Worker or any of the available and open PNP programs, or if you want them to study in Canada, further their further their education with the Canadian programs, that's also a good option for you, for them to apply for permanent residence and come to Canada in the short term. After biometrics, how long does it take to give a U.S. visa? So we do U.S. immigration here at Visa Place, but I am a Canadian immigration consultant, so I would not be able to answer that question for you. If you'd like, you can also book a consultation with our U.S. team who can help qualify you and provide any information on the process and timelines. I am a dentist from Egypt, but my West certificate says that I have a bachelor's degree with 4 years. So in my express entry, I'll get the points of the master's degree as I'm a professional degree, or I'll get the points of the bachelor's degree according to the West. So it could be that your foreign education was completed as a master's degree, your school issued a master's degree for you, but when we do the West assessment, it comes back as a bachelor's degree. In that case, it is very likely that we have to list it as a bachelor's degree. So getting points for a bachelor's degree per the West assessment. I think we want to take a look at that a little bit further just to make sure that what you've selected in your express entry profile is correct, and so that it doesn't become an issue later on in the process when it's adjudicated by the immigration officer. We can happily take a look at all of your documentation there, all of your personal history, all of those details to make sure that you feel comfortable that the application that you're submitting is correct and meets all the eligibility requirements. I have a U.S. student visa violation. Will I have a problem getting Canadian visa? Well, we've got lots of questions here today, guys. That's awesome. The answer to that is yes and no. We do have to report all and any immigration refusals or rejections on our immigration applications to Canada, whether that's permanent residence, visitor visa, or study permit. Depending on what happened there, whether it was a refusal or if you violated the terms of your F1 visa, we may need to review that and provide additional submissions from one of our lawyers to support your application. We have to remember that there's a misrepresentation bar in Canada of 5 years. So we don't want to be purposely misrepresenting any information or withholding information or details. So we do have to be very truthful on that application to make sure that you're not barred from applying for immigration in Canada for 5 years. It's a very serious violation. All right, so I applied for express entry a few months ago. I didn't finish the IELTS during the 60 days. Then your application expired. Can I apply again when I finish my IELTS exam? Yes, you can start a new express entry profile when you've got your new IELTS results. That's not a problem. Both my wife and I are living and working in Toronto. Hi. We have less than 1 year experience. Is express entry the best way to apply for PR, or is there a more efficient way? Very good question. I'm not sure what kind of job you guys are doing, but we do have the Ontario PNP foreign worker stream that is open that you can apply for depending on the situation, the job, as well as your employer. Additionally, we can look at either the new public policy programs that are available to us or express entry through Canadian Experience costs. If you need a work permit extension, there's also other avenues that we can take a look at for you guys. So in short, It's really hard for me to say if this is the best way for you guys to apply for permanent residence without taking a look into your personal profile. How many years open work permit will I get if I study 2 8-month-long programs in a Canadian college? Provided that it's a designated learning institution that you're going to that has and offers postgraduate work permit eligibility, you should be eligible for a 3-year postgraduate work permit. Am I authorized by the Canadian government authorized regulation? I am a licensed Canadian immigration. I hope that's your question. So I am licensed as an immigration consultant. Our team here, our lawyers are all licensed by their respective law societies as well too. So we are very licensed to provide immigration advice and to help represent you on your immigration application. Do you have any additional info on the essential worker PR pathways, please? Such as, do you have to work certain hours per week? To qualify for the PR pathway as an essential worker, you do have to meet the 1-year requirement of work experience in an eligible occupation with an equivalent of full-time hours, which is equal to at least 30 hours per week. Now, if you are working part-time, 15 or 20 hours per week, that may count as well too, depending on how long you have been working in that position. It could also be met in different job occupations, for example. If you did one job for part-time and then another job for full-time, that can still add up to the requirement there to apply for PR under that pathway. Okay. Is it possible to apply for permanent residence in Canada with a master's degree from the US? Absolutely. Master's students, I find, are usually very good candidates to apply for express entry. So yes, for sure. You may want to take a look at that as well further, just because H-1B restrictions, F1, OPT, whatever status you kind of have in the US, you might want to look at opportunities to apply for permanent residence in Canada as an alternative to keep your options open. My CRS point is 419 and I'm in the express entry pool with open interest in PNP as well. Is there any way through your law firm that my profile can be pushed through a job offer in LMIA? So let me just see here. I'm not sure if you're in Canada or if you might be outside of Canada. But yeah, I think there is a lot of room for improvement for a situation like yours. Job occupation classification is very important. You want to maximize your eligibility, right? So you may think you may qualify under one NOC code, but if you have better exposure under a NOC code, that might be kind of the differentiating factor for you to receive a PNP nomination. So we're really experienced in reviewing and assessing job occupations just to maximize your opportunities. So if you want to meet with us, we can take a look at that for you. All right. Is there any chance for my parents to get a visitor visa to visit me in Canada during COVID? I'm a temporary resident. How long is the processing time? Unfortunately, family members of temporary residents right now, unless they're relocating with you, it's not possible for us to maybe get a family exemption. I think we might want to take a look at that though. It is still possible for you to get a visitor visa. I mean, we might want to start that process now. And depending on where they are, what country they're from, the processing times can range from as early as 8 weeks to several months later. Can you comment about the status of outline spousal sponsorship, the delays, and if CPC is working? Yes, CPC is working and they still are processing applications. Can you apply for Canadian PR if you're living in the US on an L1 visa? Possibly yes, if your US or foreign company has a subsidiary or branch in Canada. They've got a sister company here. It's possible you can do an L1 into Canada with an intercompany transfer, similar work permit there for you. And you can apply for PR as a federal skilled worker as well, depending on your personal factors. I've got accepted for an MBA on campus in BC to start in September, but subsequently I got an invitation for permanent residence and just applied for my application. Congratulations. I want to remain in Ontario where I have a full-time job. Can I do the MBA online or blend pending the outcome of the PR application, or only full-time is acceptable? I've been living in Canada since September 2015. Let's see. I don't think you're accepted into an MBA program, which is great, but I don't think this is directly impacting your current immigration application. You may want to check with your university directly to ensure what the program offerings are there, whether it's a blended format or inland or person. But you've got your invitation to apply, you submitted your PR application. I think it's just a matter of figuring out how you're going to complete your studies. But as I mentioned, I don't think it's going to affect the PR application. Do you think that a score of 450 is enough for express entry? Yes, possibly, depending on what we put in your job occupation. I think it's very possible. We've seen candidates with scores of 300s receive a provincial nomination, so it is very possible, and we'll see how the next few months go. Can we apply for a student visa as the second option if our express entry application got rejected? Yes, you can. We just have to report if there is a refusal in that case. I have my aunt living in Ottawa. I'm 30 years old, 2 careers, intermediate, advanced English. Can she sponsor you? Can your aunt sponsor you? Most likely not, unless there are no other family members that she's eligible to sponsor. For example, a mother, father, grandparent, or child. So it really depends, but I think your aunt can still get you points under federal skilled worker. Your profile looks really good. I think you have the right education, your right age, right language skills to apply. So you may want to really look into applying for PR on your own merits under economic immigration, so express entry or a provincial nominee as one option. Okay, let's see here. I have a degree in French and Spanish and 4 years of experience as a classroom teacher. What pathways do you recommend for me? As you know, French and English are our official languages here in Canada. If you speak French and English and you have the capability to be bilingual or apply as a francophone, I think there are many, many options for you to apply for permanent residence or even a work permit. I want you to book a consultation with us because that's a real competitive edge that you have over other candidates. And so there's many different streams and avenues that we can look at for you to apply as a French speaker. Okay, so we've got a few questions left, and we're just closing up on time here. So I'm just going to answer a few more, guys, and then we can wrap things up. Is it a good thing to get into the express entry pool right now during COVID? You're eager to know whether there's a massive entry to Canada during the post-COVID scenario. I think we have to take advantage of the market conditions right now. I wouldn't wait until next year when the borders reopen. I think if you're interested in applying for permanent residence, to start right away. Don't delay it. You want to get in. There's nothing stopping you from starting now. There's no cost. So if you're really interested in applying for PR, I would suggest doing so immediately to see where things go this year. All right, guys. So I think that will be our last question. Yeah, I think that's going to be our last question. As always, if you guys want to book a consultation with us, I think our coupon code, our discount code is shared here in the comments for us. for a discount from a consultation. We'd love to meet with you, get to know you, figure out, what pathways there are and avenues for you to apply for permanent residence. So book a consultation with us and we'd be happy to meet with you. Until next time, I'll see you guys on our next session. Take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.